Gay SA Radio, where you are family. Coming up on my trans journey, two trans women, Cher Peterson and Kattia Williams, share their very unique journey with us. She shares her journey of discrimination through ignorance, and this taught her to grow into the well-rounded woman she is now. Katja shares the story of discrimination and total exclusion from her Muslim faith and how she managed to overcome it all to become Miss Transgender South Africa 2017. Sure, how did your journey start?
Well, hi, and hi, Gay Say Radio family. To kickstart, I think my journey started when I was still a little kid. I think for me, watching Disney movies made me realize I just wanted to be a Disney princess. A little bit unrealistic, but it's kind of how I came to understand just that there was something not right in terms of my gender that I was living as. And yeah, I think it started there when I was a kid. I always felt a little bit awkward, and people were always kind of saying, boys don't act like that. Why are you acting like that? And slowly but surely that, as I grew up, I started to realize that every time I was wishing to be, seen as a girl or just experience things as a girl, that was kind of when I realized later in life that I was transgender.
What did you go through during this period when you realized that you were transgendered?
For me, when I was starting to kind of come to terms with it, there was a long period of time where I kind of thought, oh, it's not something that people do. And when people are transgendered, there's a very specific, almost aesthetic and look that I wasn't comfortable with. So there was a lot of confusion, but there was also for me a lot of what we call dysphoria in terms of being very uncomfortable in my own body and, not liking how it was and how I felt in my own body. And that made me very, very uncomfortable. And I think it made me a very awkward kind of kid growing up as well, and a very awkward adult. Only now, I think, in life, I've become very comfortable and confident in who I am. So there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of self-hate, even. So that's especially what I went through. And there was also a lot of, from other people, there was a lot of naysaying and almost bullying to some extent, especially at school. But I think that we've moved past that now.
How long did it take you about to kind of realize, look, listen, I am very different, and I can
hmm
put a label on it, and this is because I think the other thing that we've seen is that many people on this journey kind of first think, okay, I must be gay.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
realize, but wait a minute, there is a vast difference between being gay and
yeah.
being transgendered.
Yeah. So I think for me, like when I was younger, I also thought that might be the case, but I was like, I don't really feel specifically just attracted to men. That's never really how it's been for me. So from the start already, and even on my whole entire journey, I've always known that, I can't be gay because I'm not just, into men if I'm not thinking of from my assigned gender. Um, that was kind of a thing for me, knowing that I was interested in all kinds of people. So I think on my journey, as I explored, different identities and different ways of living and different types of people, I slowly realized, that I must be transgendered. That's just how it is. Especially having YouTube as a resource for me was kind of a good way to see other people's experiences and other people's journeys, and that really helped me come to terms with who I am.
What were the most difficult things you've had to deal with on your journey so far?
Um, Definitely for me, it was interacting with people. Um, the most difficult thing for me is people not understanding, or people not even being willing to understand. A lot of ignorance is has made my journey very hard, especially people that I've had to interact with when it comes to being at varsity, or people that I've had to interact with in the workplace, or even people in my own family. I think a lot of the time ignorance has played a big role in my struggle because it leads to a lot of self-doubt, and you don't kind of feel very comfortable in a space. I think one of the most difficult things was I had friends when I was starting at varsity who, used to love going to trance parties. So like parties, festivals where they, go to listen to trance music, and that was supposed to be a very, very open and free space. And what happened to me was I was at one of these trance parties, and lots of people started telling one another, "Ugh, that's a dude, it's like a poser, like here at this festival, and it's disgusting." And at some point, it was almost like everyone was directing this at me, and I felt a lot of hate from people at the festival, and I eventually just ended up stuck in a car in a state of panic and distress, and all I wanted to do was leave. Since that, happened, and it was quite recent, I think it must have been like 2 or 3 years ago. Um, it left me very paranoid and very afraid to even open up to people in any sort of social space. And it really made me consider who I was friends with, and, who I interacted with on the daily, and what kind of spaces I allow myself to be me in, when it comes to, being really authentic and free, because it's really dangerous in a space like South Africa where people don't understand and people are ignorant and they have their own, ideas of how people should be and who they should be. And it really made me, that was the first time I actually realized how dangerous being trans is in a space like South Africa.
You said this was like 3 years ago,
Yeah.
so it's still fairly recent. Would you say that was your darkest hour?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was my darkest hour. I was, stuck in a car for I think almost 8 hours with people screaming at me in the car, screaming at me, "You should go home. You're kind of like disgusting. You're a disgrace to like people, and you're
Wow.
giving loads and loads of people a bad name." So it was really traumatizing for me. And if it wasn't for one of my friends who was just like, "Listen, let's leave, let's get out of here, let's go to a safer place, like let's go home," I don't think I would have left there without a little bit of, and I mean, I still have a lot of trauma from that event, but I don't think I would have left in a way that I could have dealt with it had I stayed longer or had I sat there longer. Because at that point, I was in the car for 8 hours, and I hadn't gone to the bathroom at all. I hadn't eaten. So I was just sitting in the car with nothing to do except panic.
If you look back at that experience, did it help you grow, or did it actually hurt you and do more damage than anything else?
Um, I think, you know, in retrospect, now looking back, it really did help me grow and help me to understand just, because I have a strong feeling now, and I think it's given me a sense of intuition when interacting with people as to like, you know, who is real and authentic and sympathetic and compassionate, and who, are the people that I can and cannot kind of trust to have in my life. It was definitely an eye-opening experience as well, and I think it made me way more humble and a stronger person because, now I kind of don't take nonsense from anyone.
On your journey, have there been people who supported you?
Yeah, tons. So, on my journey, there's definitely been a lot of familial support from my dad, especially. He was one of my biggest supporters. He always helped me along and kind of, helped me start my medical transition, taking me to the doctor. And I've always had a strong, close circle of friends who've really been there through thick and thin, like asking me if there's anything that I need always and constantly helping to understand what it is that I'm experiencing and how it is they can be kind of better allies to me through my journey.
Obstacles.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's always a big
obstacles.
one. And I mean, especially, I think the first thing normally for people when you say you are gay, it's sort of a, oh my God,
Hmm.
a shattering
Yeah,
moment. But somehow for
yeah,
people, if you are saying I'm transgendered, it's just so much worse, which is just so fucked up.
yeah. Yeah, 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 it's so much worse. I think, for me, I didn't really come out to my parents in any way, shape, or form. My dad kind of did his own research, and then we had a sit down, and he was like, "Listen, I just want you to be authentic. I want you to be you, and I want us to be able to share in all of you who you are." Because I was always very closed off to my family in a certain way, because I always felt like, this is a shameful thing. And my family really helped me to realize that, fuck that. Uh, you know, be you and be true to you.
Obviously, there must have been resistance from people as well, stuff that hindered you in your journey so far.
hmm Yeah, I think in terms of resistance, there's been some resistance from a lot of family members. Now, not my home family, but just other family members, in terms of like accepting me and trying to understand and really trying to be there and be supportive. There's been a lot of that. I think when it comes to kind of dead naming, which is what happens with a lot of trans people, where people who are family and supposed to be supportive kind of don't make a concerted effort to use your chosen name, or to really use your correct pronouns, which I think is a lot, as a cause of distress for a lot of people. But yeah, for me, those have been some obstacles. I think some other obstacles. I think it's definitely a huge obstacle as well. There's been obstacles in terms of dating, trying to get people to understand what being transgendered is all about, and how, I am a woman and should be treated as such, and deserve the same kind of love, you know?
I think the one thing that, and you touched on that, and that's something I want to ask, is the pronouns. And I think there's a
Mm.
lot of people that are just so uncertain of what pronouns to use and what not to use, and or what is correct and what is not correct. And what would be the correct pronouns to use?
I think, it's different amongst different people. I think the best way to actually go about finding out the correct pronouns is just to ask. As simple as that. I think asking is so important. I don't think we should assume anything when interacting with people we don't know, or especially now, there's so many different pronouns. Everyone has chosen their own pronouns now. We had the whole identity politics issue and debate, and I think in a generation like mine, it's important to ask and never just assume. So, if people are uncertain of someone's pronouns, rather just, call them by the name that you know, and then ask, what are your pronouns? What would you like me to refer to you as?
Then at work,
Yeah, at
did you
work.
have any difficulty at work at all being accepted?
Um, well, at my job that I currently work at, I kind of went in and, I was very upfront with being transgender, because there are quite a couple of transgender people who work in my office. So at work, I haven't faced many obstacles. They're very, very, um, very accepting. It's kind of one of those spaces that I would call a modern space, where everyone is kind of accepted for who and what they are. And it's been a very, very, very calming place to work at, and a calming experience to have to work in such an environment. But I think there definitely could be some obstacles a lot of the time, if your documents don't match, your preferred name, or your gender, that you know if you're transgender and you're obviously female, then sometimes if your documents don't match, it could make a little bit of problem for you. But I think that it really just depends on working environment. So my working environment is very accepting, very open, very, honest. They have an open door policy, which I think is really great. And as long as, you're open and honest, they are, willing to be supportive, and allow you to live your truth.
How difficult is it to make the document change? I've heard like so many stories. Some people say it goes quick,
Yeah.
others say it's like a really dragged out process.
Yeah. I know that, so there's two changes that one would have to make, depending on your own personal uh, feelings and needs. The name change being a very simple one, it does take quite a while. I know, because they have to send it up to Pretoria. So depending, I think, on the home affairs that you go to, a name change is a simple one. You go to the birth certificate office, the birth death certificate office. You fill in a form and you pay 140 Rand. Um, Simple as that. No, is it 100? I think it might be 200. something. It's 240. I think it's a very simple process. It's the same you would do if you had gotten married, need to change your surname, or if your name was spelled wrong and you'd like to fix it. It's changing the name is quite simple. It does take a while, because I've heard people say, it took about a month for them. For me, it did take quite a while. And the second change would be changing your gender marker. And after that, um, it should be quite a simple process as well, depending on the home affairs you do go to, because I know some, you might work with a clerk who doesn't really agree with your change of life and may want to hinder the process, but you need two letters from physicians saying that you've medically altered your gender by, taking hormones, or you've uh, something of that sort. So you need to just be able to prove that you have gone to a doctor and medically you have been able to change the hormone levels in your body to the desired gender. And you hand in that and you just fill out the form that they require. And I think that's about 140 Rand. And then it should go to Pretoria where they have everything processed and they issue you a new ID number and a new ID with your gender marker, correct?
On your journey, you mentioned you've doing a medical transformation. How far are you on your journey?
Hmm. Yes, I've been taking hormones for I think 6 months now. That's been one of the things I think that has been a little bit of an obstacle. Just finding um, the right route and finding, kind of access to resources in terms of who does one go to, where does one get assistance. I think it just took a while for me because I was looking and looking and looking and always not afraid, I would say, but just doubtful as to whether or not the right steps were being taken. So I went to go see Gender Dynamics in Cape Town, and they have a process where they get you into Grooteskied, and they subsidize your transition for you, offering you obviously medical assistance with hormones and seeing doctors and seeing an endocrinologist. Whereas I've decided, I got access to a physician who is a GP, and she simply, prescribes me. She knows exactly about the transition, and she knows the correct levels that she needs to issue. So I've gone to a private physician, and she assists in giving me my prescriptions. I pop over to my local pharmacy, get my hormones, and take them every day. So I basically take hormone blockers, and I have estrogen patches, which I put on.
Going on to the hormone treatments, I've heard is a really, really an intense process. Is that true?
It's a very unintense.
Intense. I heard it's quite hectic to go on to.
It really depends on your medical history. If you've got a history of diabetes or heart disease or those kind of things, if you've got any medical issues, I think it might be intense, but it's fairly simple. If you go to a GP who has worked with transgendered patients, and that's why research is so important, finding a doctor to work with you. It could be quite simple if you're willing to go the private route. But if you need medical assistance, you can't afford to pay for it, then it can be quite a lengthy process to get hormones. But the taking of hormones, not so bad. I mean, I take one tablet every single day, which is the hormone blockers, and I put on a patch twice a week. Bob's your uncle.
Wow, that seems easy.
Yeah,
Emotionally and
that's a,
psychologically,
yeah,
going through the hormones as well. And I
yeah,
just want to kind of
hmm
stick to that for a little bit longer.
yeah.
Emotionally and psychologically, was that difficult?
You know what? It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was difficult. I think it was very affirming. When you start hormones, there's almost a sense of, let me just start by saying when I started hormones, there's definitely a kind of you feel as if your emotional range stretches and you feel more, you become a lot more sensitive to other people's feelings, your own feelings. It's kind of like puberty. It's basically puberty, going through puberty. So identical to the sex that you, or the gender that you, you know, are now. it's identical to that. So I've, experienced some mood swings in terms of just experiences that make me feel now super emotional, where in the past I wasn't really as emotional. And I cry all the time now, which is quite different. And then, yeah, I think there's definitely a change for the better. I think you do feel a sense of affirmation. Um, there's just a sense of rightness that you just feel right within yourself, which I think is really truly such a beautiful thing that hormone replacement does offer a lot of trans people.
Looking at yourself right now, where you are on this journey, are you okay? Are you coping?
Yeah, I'm definitely coping. I've got a great support system. I found a young gentleman who happens to love me the way I am, and
Yay!
yeah, so I feel very confident, and I'm positive the future is going to be great. And obviously, plans in the pipeline for transition is obviously just getting downstairs surgery. I think that's about it. Yeah, I've got sufficient breast growth, and I think it's actually been quite a beautiful journey for me. It's something I think, deserves it's stories that I feel that people deserve to hear. And yeah, I'm quite happy.
What is so great about being trans for you?
Um, I actually wouldn't say that there's anything great about being trans. I wouldn't wish the emotional turmoil of not understanding who you are on anyone. But I do think there's a sense of satisfaction that comes from finally feeling it truly authentic and feeling truly real as who you are. I think that could possibly, the kind of feeling of zenith happiness that you get once you are on your journey and you feel truly you. I think that's a very beautiful and great thing that does come from, the journey.
What are the best things that have happened to you so far?
It was quite a bit. I feel in the university space when I was still studying, some of the best things were just being, honored and recognized as kind of a leader in the community. Here where I studied in Stellenbosch, which I think was lovely. And the best things that have happened really have been meeting other trans people and sharing my story with them and having them share their stories with me because there's so many different stories. People have their own journey and it's so different for everyone that it's really kind of humbling and beautiful to hear and to almost experience through them their experiences. So I think that's been really something fantastic.
If I ask you what is better than you could wish for?
What is better than I could wish for
Yes.
about being trans?
Yes. If you look back at where you started out and where you are now, what is better than you could have wished for back then?
Um, I think the level of happiness I feel now. I don't think that there was this constant flow of happiness that I feel now that I have never felt before. I think that's definitely much better. Also, the fact that now I can truly say that I have people in my life who I know are going to be in my life for the rest of my life. And I could never say that with conviction a couple of years ago. Um, so that to me is something that's better than then.
What has being trans taught you?
Oh, a lot of a lot of humility, and it's taught me that we really have to look very deeply at one another to actually fully understand who and what those people are. I think if I was in trance and I hadn't gone on my own journey and experienced the things that I've experienced, I don't think I would have, seen people for 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 who they are as kind of a culmination of everything they've experienced in their life. And I think that is one of the greatest lessons to be so almost reverent of people and to see who they've become from those experiences. I think that's just it's been a gift, really.
If we look at your growth on this journey, how
Yeah.
have you grown personally?
Um, Personally, I think I've become a lot less self-centered and self-absorbed. Um, I've become a more human, if that's anything to say. I think I've become a better person. from having struggled, and I don't think I could have turned out better than I have, given the experiences that I've had.
If you could give advice to someone that is on a similar journey, what would you say?
I would definitely say research, research, research is your friend, and find people, find a support group, find people who can help you, and find people that you feel comfortable with. I think that's one of the most important things. You can't do this alone. There are people who have done it alone, but I think even they will tell you you need people to support and help. And there are going to be times where you're going to feel terrible and you're going to need some reassurance and validation. And those people are going to be there to help you. And also tread with caution, consider everything carefully. Consider what it is you want. Consider how it is you're going to get there. Consider everything. That's what I would advise.
Anything else you'd like to add that I missed?
No, I really don't think I have anything else to add. I think we've covered everything, really.
Gay SA Radio, where you are family. I'm Rian, and that was Cher Peterson talking to us about her trans journey. Katja, how did your journey start?
My journey started at the age of 16, Rian, where I had to come out to my family as a trans woman. Coming from a Muslim background, it was actually very difficult because my parents didn't want anything to do with me. But I'm going to cut that a bit short and tell you exactly how I started my transition. Years later, at the age of 17 or 18, my parents finally accepted me, and I reached out to a LGBTI organization where I have received counseling, and they also educated me about transgenders and what I'm about to do to myself and stuff. And they started me off with my hormones.
How did you realize that you were different? And what did you go through during that period when you kind of realized, look, I'm not exactly the same as other people?
I've always been feminine. I always knew that I was different, Rian. I was uncomfortable associating myself with males. I always felt comfortable playing with dolls and having little tea parties with females and stuff. So, yeah.
I think one of the other things that happen is during this time when you sort of realize that you are different, many people kind of mistake the fact that they are transgendered with the fact that they are gay, and there is a vast difference between the two. Did you go through anything like this?
I always go through this, Rian. People always tend to classify me as a gay person. And I would always tell them there's a huge difference between transgender and being gay. And my explanation of being trans is being trapped in the wrong body. In my case, I'm a female in a male's body. So I'm obviously attracted to males. And gay guys are men that are into men. Okay.
I think the interesting thing that happens here is also there's like a stereotypical thing that people think that when you are a man, a woman trapped in a man's body, and you go through the whole thing that you have to now be attracted to men, and that doesn't always work, does it? You can be still attracted to women as well.
Yes, I actually know quite a few transgender women that are into women, and I totally respect that, and I commend them for doing that, because we can't choose who we fall in love with.
What are some of the most difficult things that you had to go through on your journey so far?
Some of the most difficult things I had to face is being discriminated, judged, especially in the workplace. People always misgendering me, classifying me as a male, calling me an evil spirit and stuff like that. But I always put that behind me because I've taken it into consideration that not everybody is educated about transgender. So make it my duty to educate. But I said I took into consideration that I rather educate people because we actually can't also blame them for that. So basically what I do, I educate people about transgenders and stuff,
I think what is especially difficult with transgendered people is that now Where do you fall in? You don't fit in in a normal kind of cisgendered community, and you also don't fit into the gay community, and it becomes a very muddled up thing, doesn't it?
It does, Rian. But what people should take into consideration, stop labeling. You know what I'm saying? Just stop labeling.
And
We
it's
are
just
women at it.
and people are so quick to label, aren't they?
They are very quick to label. But that's society, Rian. There's nothing we can do about that. Most people are uneducated anyway.
If you don't mind me asking, you mentioned that you come from a Muslim background. I mean, that must have been extremely, extremely difficult to go through.
Yes, Rian. A couple of years ago, I actually used to attend mosque every single Friday, and there was this one incident where the Molana actually discriminated me in front of the whole congregation, if I can use that word, and I just stopped attending mosque ever since.
I was going to ask you, and do you go to mosque now?
I don't attend at all. I prefer reading at home.
Well, you haven't lost your faith.
No, I haven't. I still practice Islam. I am Muslim. I have God in my heart.
Your darkest hour, that if you look back on this journey, what would you say that was?
My darkest hour was when my parents kind of disowned me when I actually needed them most. That was my darkest hour.
And obviously, it's been a very long journey for you. How long have you been on this journey?
It's gonna be exactly 17 years now, Rian.
Wow, that's
17 years and
and
still counting.
and it's still a struggle every day.
It is a struggle every single day. I think that's gonna happen for the rest of my life, but I take it one day at a time.
And of course, then there's a problem with hormone replacement therapy as well that everybody's going through.
Yes, especially here in Durban, Rian. Cape Town is one of the best places where you can receive hormone therapy because they do have protocols. Whereby Durban in KZN, we don't have any protocols. They only offer you one set of tablets, which is the Premarin and obviously the blockers, which is Cypoterone. And we have done an interview about Premarin and it's actually very harmful. So the doctors here in Durban at these state hospitals can only offer us a private script where we will have to buy the treatment out of our own pocket, and you will spend roughly around 150 to 500 and some change a month.
For how many tablets is that?
That's just 28 pills, Rian. Just 28 pills. And if you had to buy the blockers privately, you would pay about 350 to 400 rands.
Well, and how many do you take a day? Would that be one tablet a day?
I'm taking 2 tablets a day. So you have to take the estrogen pill, which is either the Premarin or the Estrovim, and the blocker to suppress the male hormone. So
That's
that's 2 pills.
fools. Have there been any people on your journey that supported you, Katja?
Yes, my family is very supportive now. I've got a lot of friends that are supportive. My fiance as well, very supportive. I've got a whole lot of people standing behind me, and it's making my journey a bit more easier and manageable.
Anything that hindered you in the process? Anything that kind of was in your way? It means of obstacles.
Um, Not really, Rian. I don't think there was anything in my way. Okay, I was first afraid to transition because of what my family might think. But then again, I have to make myself happy, so I just went ahead and did it, and eventually they kind of accepted everything now.
If you don't mind me asking, how far on the journey of transitioning are you?
I'm just taking hormones. I haven't had any surgeries done yet, Rian.
Would you plan to do anything like that?
Yes, I do plan on having that done, but not right now
It,
because I can't afford it at the moment, and KZN hospitals doesn't offer SRS, which is a sexual reassignment surgery.
that is obviously it's extremely expensive to go through.
Absolutely expensive, Rian. In South Africa, you're looking around 250K
Wow.
just for the penile invasion surgery. That's the whole thing.
It's quite interesting because if you look at the end of the day, you are suffering from, I think most transgender people are suffering from gender dysphoria. which
Yes, a lot of them.
which can be
Sorry.
seen as a condition here. And shouldn't people then look at the government subsidizing this in some way?
That's right, Rian. Our country is still a bit messed with our government here. Rian, our country still looks at SRS as cosmetic surgery, whereby it should be granted to every single trans woman because it is not our fault that we like this, you know? And we can't afford to have these surgeries done. So it would be very nice if the government looks into this and have these surgeries given to trans people.
If you are looking at where you are today, how are you coping?
I'm coping kind of normal now, Rian. I'm not really so much into the surgery at the moment. I just want to focus on myself. My physical appearance is actually what matters right now to me. That is my disorder.
Okay,
Rian?
we spoke about discrimination earlier, and you work as a nurse.
Yes, I do work as a nurse, Rian.
You would think that as a nurse, people would understand better in that field.
They're supposed to understand and be a bit more reasonable, Rian. But because of society, some people within the medical field also discriminate against transgender people and gays in general.
I think the other difficult thing must be with ID books. Have you had your gender reassignment done in your ID, and has that been a problem?
I struggle to receive these letters from your doctor. It's absolutely difficult. I actually went for my appointment yesterday and I was told by my doctor within 2 months we can speak about getting my letters for my gender maker.
I mean, with Home Affairs, that's also take time when you want to kind of have your gender marker changed.
Yes, the name change is actually 6 weeks and the gender change takes about 7 months.
Your future plans.
My future plans. Can I keep you guys guessing on that one?
You can. I think I already know, but we can keep the listeners guessing on that one because I am going to scoop that story before anybody else.
I'll give it to you willingly, Rian.
Then, I think another question that I just want to briefly touch on in this interview is that you are our current Miss Transgender South Africa.
Yes, I am, Rian.
Tell me
2017, 2018.
bit about that. How did that come about? Tell me a bit about the competition.
Okay, I was crowned under Pride Pageantry International, which is an American-based company. Because South Africa doesn't have a Miss Transgender South Africa, Pageantry International had this online competition where we had to send in a couple of pictures of ourselves, some videos, and obviously sent a few questions. And I was selected to be the representative for South Africa.
Don't
And
you
that's how it all went about me becoming.
don't you think it's time that
Sorry.
we actually have a public pageant?
It is about time. I'm actually planning on having one, but I need a few people that can assist me with that.
I can't wait. I think that's going to be so exciting.
It will be because it will give our trans people something to look forward to. I mean, there's a whole lot of beauty pageants, Miss South Africa, that obviously don't take transgender people. So why not have a Miss Trans South Africa?
But why doesn't Miss South Africa take transgender people? Don't you think it's time that it actually does start becoming inclusive?
I think it is about time. They're still living in the past, Rian. They're very judgmental people. They feel that we demonic and because we're not genetic women, we're unable to compete against genetic females.
So I have to ask you, what is great about being trans?
What is great about being trans?
Yeah.
It's just being yourself. That's all I can say, honestly, Rian.
And,
That's all I can say.
and the best thing that's happened to you so far?
The best thing that has happened to me this far is meeting my other half that is actually very supportive.
And if I may ask, is he also from the Muslim community?
Yes, he's also a Muslim guy, Rian. He is Muslim.
I think that's absolutely
We
amazing.
actually got engaged Yes, it is amazing. We actually got engaged last year, November, and we are tying the knot on the 7th of September now. We just received our date yesterday at Home Affairs.
That's another scoop I'm going to have that I'm not going to tell anybody about. Luckily, this interview
Oh, lovely.
this interview is airing after that. So,
Really?
what is better than you could wish for?
What is better that I can wish for?
Yeah, better now if you look back on
Let,
your journey.
um, let me think a bit there, Ryan. What is better than I can wish for? What is better now than before?
Before, if you look back at where you started out to this point in time, what do you think is far better than you could have imagined?
My appearance, I would say my appearance, my self-confidence. Family is a bit more understanding, yeah.
What has being transgender taught you? What is the biggest lesson this journey have taught you on this planet?
To love yourself and not worry about what other people think. Just do you, and that everything else will fall into place.
And looking back, how have you grown?
I've grown to be a very, very happy female. I'm loving myself more and more every single day, Rian. Before I absolutely hated myself. But lately I can look at myself in the mirror and I see this beautiful woman. I'm no more that strapped female. You know, understand what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, I don't feel trapped anymore. I'm halfway there and I'm happy.
I think, part of this that must have been on this journey must have been very difficult and is actually going onto the hormone replacements. I think that there's a period there where your body starts adjusting that is absolute agony that you must go through.
Yes, Rian. Actually, okay, from patient to patient, it varies. For me, in this case, I started seeing changes after 3 months. There's a lot of pain with breast growth. You can see your facial features changing slightly, like the cheekbones would pop up, your facial hair will minimize, your body hairs will thin out and eventually stop growing. You start getting more emotional. I cry a lot, Rian. You have a whole lot of mood swings like a normal genetic woman.
If you, I've lost my trail of thought completely. Yeah. Um,
Why?
it's like I've just always had a different concept about things, and I've always kind of looked at it. To me, it doesn't matter about the physical; it's about what's inside, and that means whether you're male or female. And
That's
you say I
correct.
said like a normal woman, it was just like but I don't see that. Perhaps I'm weird.
Ye-
I've got a different way of looking at things.
No, you're not weird. You're not weird. You're not weird at all.
If
But you
you
actually feel like, sorry, yeah, you
no,
can
you
go
go
on.
first.
You actually do feel, you feel your true emotions because now that hormones is also helping you. Because everything that has been kept inside is now coming out. You're flourishing to becoming that beautiful woman. The real you is finally appearing.
What would you suggest if you can give it any advice to anybody who's on a similar journey? What would you tell them?
If there's any other people out there that has started on hormone therapy or that's about to start on hormone therapy, don't give up. If you feel like you emotional or something, speak to someone. Love yourself and remember that you are beautiful, no matter what anyone else says.
I think also what I would like to add here is you have a support group on Facebook happening.
Yes, I do have one where we interact with other trans women from all over South Africa.
Tell me a little bit about the support group.
In our support group, we have a group of transgender people that will throw out questions and anybody can answer those questions. For example, if you're about to start on hormone therapy, you will mention the names of the tablets and they will tell you whether it's the correct treatment you're going on, who's the doctor seeing you. So they're basically enlightening you on things it's advising you, yeah, on things you need to know.
What is the group called?
It is called Transgender Support. Then it's brackets only, close brackets, Durban.
Okay, so just transgender support, bracket only, bracket Durban.
That's correct, yeah.
So anybody listening to the show who is going through anything like this can join there and you'll be able to help them.
Yes, they can send us a request. They will have to answer the questions that is given to them there. And if it is successful, we will approve the request.
Just another question about that. If you are a transgender ally, can you also join the group?
Yes, allies are welcome. We love our allies.
Great. Katja, anything else you'd like to add that I perhaps missed?
No, that's all, Rian. Thank you.
Gays Radio, where you are family. I'm Rian, and that was Katja Williams talking to us about her trans journey.